Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's Jean Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Inspired live stream. It is Thursday, January 25th, 2024. We are almost a week away from the end of the month. And boy, has it been a month already. It's kind of exciting to see this. I know it's also challenging, but we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's the mantra of the Inspired live stream. That's what we need to carry. This energy is what we need to carry forward. Now, we'll say this. We're going to have to do a lot of things at the same time. The PSYOP is in full bloom here. And I'm going to get into it, talk about the border situation. We have a standoff now between the state of Texas and many, many other states that are supporting Texas, including our home state of Tennessee here, and the federal government with the border situation. So we're going to get into that. We're going to hear from Doc Pete Chambers, former Green Beret and one of the great heroes that's been down at the border doing the right thing day after day, night after night, risking his life in the service of the people. We're going to talk about why the border matters. People have been questioning this. People have been saying, well, isn't America a nation of immigrants? Why are you defending a strict border? We're going to get into all of this, why it matters, what the people are doing, and why civil war is trending on X, formerly known as Twitter. But first, let me show you some inspiring footage. We're collecting videos from the European protests, and we're going to go worldwide as soon as videos keep coming in. So let me show you this little compilation here of the beautiful and inspiring images from all over Europe now. Just beautiful. We love putting these together. It's just inspiring to see that there's a positive, a beautiful, and inspiring contagion spreading all over Europe. And I know people are watching this and they're wondering, what are we doing? So the thing that is happening in the United States currently is a trucker convoy going all across the nation. And then the culmination will be in California, Texas, and Arizona. Take our border back. And it is patriots and other wonderful people across this nation that are seeing that what is happening at the southern border in the United States isn't good for anyone, including the people coming over the border. And let's just assume that a portion of them are good-hearted people like you and I that want to be in a better place and contribute to a better place. I do assume that. Just like I know, not only assume that there is a portion that is coming over committing horrific crimes, trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking. We know this for a fact, as I said before. Now, quickly, just in general terms, when people say, and it's kind of coming from this, I don't know, naive mentality, I think, well, isn't this a nation of immigrants? Shouldn't we welcome all people? Now, let me ask you one thing. When you invite people over to your house for a celebration, a get-together, do you have a selection process, or do you just put a big old sign out on the road that says, everybody come in, and you open your doors and you let everybody come in? It doesn't make much sense, does it? it doesn't make much sense to do it this way. I don't know what could be what, the only thing that's for certain if you do that is that your home's going to be destroyed and taken over. That is for certain. If you do that, that's what's going to happen. So having a border is not necessarily the vision for into eternity. I do believe we will eventually find our way back to a spiritual, physical, and psychological state where that perhaps isn't necessary anymore. When we catapult ourselves out of this lack belief, when we quit bombing each other and fighting each other over whatever the resource of the of the day is. Yes, I think that is an evolution that we're going through, and we're going to ultimately find our way in a state of beingness where a border won't matter anymore, but we're not nearly there yet. And just opening the floodgates doesn't help anyone. Now, you might ask yourself, why would a federal government create such a situation as the ones that we're finding ourselves in now? This is really the psyop, is where you over the last 3 years, and of course much longer than that, but really in a big way over the last 3 years, this has been going on, and all the efforts by various states, state governments, and senators, Congress people in the federal government, courts and whatnot, were all shut down in favor of a open border policy. Whom does that serve? Because everybody knows, in the way that this is happening now, it creates such a problematic situation. It creates such a problematic situation that, as a matter of fact, highly liberal mayors in highly liberal cities, Chicago, New York, and the likes, are drowning and can't manage the situation any longer, with migrants just coming in, with the cost that creates for the city, with the disruptions that creates. And so they're now begging the border states to keep the people there. And the border states are saying, well, we're full, we can't do it either. Our streets are full. Have you ever looked at the border towns in Texas, for example? Have you ever looked at what is going on there? This is an inhumane situation for everyone involved. So this does not work. Now, the psyop is to create this for long enough so that the people eventually say, we've had enough, we're going to take matter into our own hands. That's a psyop. The psyop is to lead people into a state of violence. Now, the thing is, and I'll tell you this, people say it's only conservatives or it's only right-wing people, whatever that means, that are for a stricter border law and enforcement. But that's not true. If you actually show the footage to highly liberal people, in the modern sense of liberal, and you show them what's actually going on, and you show the negative effect it's having on everybody, they say, I had no idea this was going on. That's not right. Because it isn't right. Because no human being would think that's the right way to go about it. But the answer is not to go to war. The answer is for all brothers and sisters to come together and just take a stand. We don't need to fight. We don't need to go to war over this. Support the border states and support the law enforcement agencies, the sheriffs, the rangers, the border patrol that are actually enforcing the laws on the border, that are actually enforcing border controls. We just need to stand in full, unequivocal support of that. That's all that needs to happen. It's the vast majority of people in this nation that feel this way, so that shouldn't be a problem. Don't get psyoped into any form of violence. It's unnecessary. It's not needed whatsoever. In union, stand in unison, in talk to each other, find that common ground. And please, if you have ever studied immigration, mass immigration, uncontrolled immigration, then you know that if you don't have a system in place that sort of governs this process, nobody wins, everybody loses every single time in history. Let me repeat that again. Nobody wins. not the native population, not the people who are immigrating. Everybody loses every single time in history. There is not an example of uncontrolled mass migration into another nation that hasn't destroyed that nation and created havoc, chaos, and war. There just isn't. So let's not be naive here. Let's practice practical spirituality here. And if we really want to help people, let's do it the right way. Now, I want to show you a message by our dear friend, Doc Pete Chambers. As I mentioned before, a former Green Beret whistleblower. He's been instrumental to supporting all the freedom of choice movements in the United States military. Just a wonderful human being. Here's a message. He's heavily involved in the Take Our Border Back trucker convoy. I think he's supporting them. He's advising them. He's talking to the media. I know he was in Alex Jones. He was with Mike Adams. And he sent us this message here it arrived a couple minutes after yesterday's live stream. So I'm going to play it for you. And thank you, Doc, if you happen to be watching. Thank you so much for this. Let's watch this together.
This is Doc Chambers. I want to tell you about the little thing that's happening along the border, going from Virginia, going from California, hitting 3 sites along the border. This is Take Our Border Back convoy. Go there, takeourborderback.com. We the people, and I'm going to read this because I want this to be completely clear. We the people are going to participate in a peaceful assembly along the southern border of the United States in response to the invasion that's happening on our border. Active and retired, I don't have my glasses, retired law enforcement and military, veterans, elected officials, business owners, ranchers, truckers, bikers, media, law-abiding, free-loving Americans. This convoy reflects the vibrant American spirit, uniting we the people in our resolute stand to send a peaceful, lawful, and clear message to all city, state, and federal politicians, immigration enforcement officials who are enabling tens of thousands of illegals, really in the millions in the last few years, to enter illegally. Those people are being used as pawns. Most of them, it's not their fault, but they're being used as pawns. And known terrorists, and I've been going after those, from over 160 countries worldwide to cross daily into our country along the southern border. Listen, William Barrett Travis, about an hour from here in the Alamo in 1836, in the commandancy of the Alamo. This is what I wrote, but it's much along the lines of the Travis letter. My letter to Texans and all Americans, with credit to William Barrett Travis. Fellow citizens and compatriots were besieged on all sides by the forces of evil, and those who have chosen not to uphold their oaths sworn to protect and defend this nation, both Texas and the United States of America. We have sustained a continual bombardment upon our inalienable rights and freedoms and have lost many souls. Lost. The moral injury to this nation is severe. The enemy has demanded a surrender of our rights, and should we falter, the honor, prestige, and esprit de corps of this nation will wane in the balance. Wane in the balance. Think about that. If the defense is pushed beyond our capacity, we will answer accordingly, legally, morally, and ethically, and our flag will still fly proudly from the walls. We shall never surrender or retreat, Texas. We shall never surrender or retreat, America. Then I call on you in the name of liberty, of patriotism, and everything that is dear to the American character to come to our aid with all dispatch. If this call is neglected, we are determined to sustain ourselves as long as possible and act like soldiers who never forget what is due to their honor and that of our country. Victory or death. Lieutenant Colonel retired, Peter Constantine Chambers. Thank you.
Doc Chambers, thank you so much for this very, very powerful and inspiring message. Please find Doc Chambers, Doc Pete Chambers on Telegram. I think it's docpetechambers.com. And follow him. He's doing his best to keep us in the loop while he's out there in the dirt fighting the real fight. I'm going to address a few comments here in a moment. I also want to say takeourborderback.com. That's the convoy. Somebody mentioned that I mentioned before that Operation Trust, or keeping people pacified or keeping them passive, was the PSYOP. And now I'm saying going and fighting these evil forces, that is the PSYOP. What I was saying is, do not get triggered into using offensive violence. That is what these forces want. It's one thing to defend your house when you are attacked. It's another thing to go out and pick the fight. It's a whole different story. We never advocate for offensive violence. Neither does Pete Chambers. Neither do all our good friends in the military ever. So, and good friends in law enforcement and other, agencies that are in this field. Nobody's advocating for offensive violence. Defense is a whole different story. When you're attacked, you have to do what you got to do. But if we're triggered into a civil war, what is a civil war? A civil war is fighting our own brothers and sisters here. It's a war amongst the people of this nation. And this is where the show is getting sidetracked. This does not require a war. What it requires is resolution, standing strongly, enforcing what's already in place, and making sure that what's in place is enforced. Now, there's going to be a whole cleanup needed. Like Doc Chambers says, and again, he's someone who's at the border. Every single day, he sees the trafficked children. He sees the abused. He sees the murdered. He sees it with his own eyes. This is not somewhere from far away. He sees the terrorists that are on the most watch list. Apparently, our technology is so sophisticated. If you have a outstanding parking ticket, your facial recognition will light up somewhere and you'll get pulled over. But if you are a known terrorist, you can just walk over the southern border. This is not a joking matter at all. But at the same time, don't get emotionally triggered in a way that leads you to lose your ability to think creatively and create creative solutions, because that's what we need here. Otherwise, we're going to get triggered back into the same loop. And this loop is full of violence and no winners. We have it. We have a raising of consciousness that's been going on for a long time now. 2019, 2020, it went down, you know why, but over the last years, we built it up together by being focused, by staying focused, by focusing on good things, by making sure that we are taking good care of these temples, and also because of our spiritual practices. Now, as soon as consciousness comes to a certain level, that's what they always do. They introduce violence back into the population. They propagate stuff like civil war. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. The border can be closed, secured, and the process can be organized without bloodshed. People just need to stand together and demand or show up and stand physically. That's all that it takes. That's all that it takes. I think the majority of states are officially already aligning with Texas on this already. And for those of you who don't know, the Texas state government, Border Patrol, the governor, went against the current doctrine of the federal government. The Supreme Court of the United States has sided with the federal government, which a lot of experts are calling unconstitutional. And there's a standoff. And now people are coming to stand with those who think are on the right side of this. And I think this is what we need. Solidarity, friendship, and no hatred for the common people and good people that we're trying to get into this country, maybe the wrong way, but that doesn't make them bad people by default. And this is something we need to understand. We can have compassion, and actually having compassion means to do things in an orderly way. Whom does it help? When people are sitting in camps under inhumane conditions, not able to sustain themselves, not able to work, not able to earn a living, not able to provide some sort of basic needs for their families. Who is served? Nobody's served. Nobody's served if it works this way. So we will continue tracking this PSYOP, but more importantly, we will continue tracking the movements of the people that are rising worldwide, like these beautiful farmer protests, like these beautiful entrepreneur middle class protests and common worker protests that are coming up everywhere. And people have asked me, well, what does the border situation in the United States have to do with the protests in Germany? Aren't they about tax hikes? No, this is about social reengineering. The people are becoming wise to what is really going on. Yes, tax hikes trigger people, but that's not what would let them there. What's leading them to this situation is the same thing that's happening in the United States with uncontrolled immigration. It's happening in Europe with immigrants receiving a unbelievable amount of benefits versus the population of that nation that has worked 30, 40 years. And there's such a discrepancy. It's social reengineering with Maine, who is now saying that they will take away, the state of Maine will take away children from their parents if they don't give the children the gender affirming care to transition. That's all in the mix of what the people are finally realizing. There's a social re-engineering agenda going on, and it all plays into the current protest. It's not just one thing. It's not just tax hikes for farmers. It's not just additional cost for their fuel. It's not just the taking away the stealing of land from the farmers. It's not just open border policies. It's not just mass immigration. It's the whole 9 yards. It's everything. It's lock, stock, and barrel. It's not just one thing. And this is, people are realizing, hold on, I thought this was happening in Germany. No, same's happening in France, same's happening in Italy, in Austria, in Switzerland, in the United States, in Canada, in New Zealand, you name it, it's happening. And the people are realizing, wait a minute. The Germans are waking up? The Germans are on the streets? Germans are not the first ones to do that usually. The Swiss protest is almost like a unknown word in Switzerland. They don't do this shit usually. Swiss are orderly. The Swiss are very, very, clear cut in that way. They don't usually protest. The Swiss farmers protest, my friends. It's happening. There is a movement all over the world. And we are right in the middle of it, and we can help keep it in the right spirit. That's all that it takes. That's what the David Ickes of the world have been calling for such a long time. It's for people to say, I'm not having it anymore. I'm not playing the game anymore. You can shove it where the sun don't shine, and we're going to do our thing. So nobody can come and say these are terrorists. Nobody can come and say these are violent people, because it's not true. Are there bad apples? Of course. Are there agent provocateurs? Naturally. But the majority of the people are peaceful. And when you listen to what people are saying that are coming from these gatherings and protests, they're saying, you know what? I feel spirited. I feel like I found a community. I feel uplifted. I think we can do this. I think we can turn the ship around. That's what this spirit is about. So don't get distracted. Don't get sidetracked. We're in it. We're in it, and they're going to try to push a war or a disease X or whatever. But if the people don't participate, it's game over. All that requires is non-participation by the people. It's not civil disobedience. It's non-participation. You're just not participating in it any longer. There will be much more that's coming on the positive side. People will be very creative as to how they can not participate. And unless they shut down the internet, the contagion of this cannot be stopped. So I encourage you, share these things, share what you feel inspired to share, let the people see it. And when the media kicks in and says, oh, these are right-wing extremists, go and show them the footage and tell them, point out the right-wing extremists. Are farmers right-wing extremists? Are tractor owners right-wing extremists? Are middle-class business owners right-wing extremists? Are mothers and grandmothers cheering them on right-wing extremists? No. Of course they're not. They're just good people wanting to live a life in freedom and provide for their families. All right, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. Please go follow Doc Pete Chambers on Telegram. He'll keep you up to date. Go to takeourborderback.com. Share these things. If you are close to the trucker route, go show up at the side of the road. Go show up on the overpass. Take videos. Talk to the people. Exchange numbers. Make new friends. We're all in this together. Much love to you. Many blessings. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.